The following is a Nightfall Media production. For more information, check out nightfallmedia.io. Star Wars Nightfall is a not-for-profit RPG actual play podcast set in the Star Wars universe. Nightfall claims no relationship with Disney, Lucasfilm, or any of their partners or affiliates. Nightfall can be found online at nightfallmedia.io or starwarsnightfall.com. The following episode contains strong language and simulated acts of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
May the Force be with you.
The moonlit skyline of Coruscant shimmered in the distance as Aegis Vulnero wandered through the underbelly of the city planet. The young Syrian adjusted the sash on his academic robes, his sharp features shadowed by the dim light. The towering spires of the upper city were far behind him now, replaced by the oppressive atmosphere of the lower levels. He clutched a datapad under one arm, its screen displaying intricate notes on political theory, and muttered to himself as he walked.
Systems cannot thrive without strong leadership. Strength, not bureaucracy, ensures survival.
His words echoed faintly, lost in the hum of a repulsor lift engine and the clamor of distant crowds. He didn't belong here, not really, and something about the chaos of Coruscant's undercity fascinated him. It was raw, untamed, a stark contrast to the polished halls of the university. Aegis had come here often, searching for inspiration among the discarded and the forgotten. But tonight, something felt different. The air seemed heavier, the shadows darker. A faint chill prickled his skin, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. He paused, his brow furrowed as he scanned the surrounding alleys.
You should be more careful where you wander.
Aegis whirled, his heart pounding. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in black, his face hidden beneath a hood. Yet even without seeing the stranger's eyes, Aegis felt that their weight was upon him, a piercing, oppressive presence that made his breath catch.
Who are you?
The figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing the tattooed visage of a Zavrak. His yellow, predatory eyes gleamed, and his presence seemed to fill the space, suffocating and magnetic all at once.
I am called many things, but you may call me Maul.
Aegis's mind raced. The name was unfamiliar, but the sheer power radiating from this being was undeniable. It was as if though the air itself bent to his will. Aegis forced himself to be steady.
What do you want?
Maul tilted his head slightly, studying the Syrian with the intensity of a predator sizing up its prey.
I've been watching you, Aegis Vulnero. A mind like yours is a rare thing. Ambition. Calculating. Dissatisfied with the weakness of those who claim to lead.
Aegis took a step back, gripping his datapad tightly.
How do you know who I am?
I know more than you can imagine. I have seen the fire within you, the desire for order, for strength. You believe the galaxy can be shaped into something greater. You are correct.
Aegis felt a chill run down his spine. There was something hypnotic about Maul's words, as though they reached into the deepest corners of his thoughts and brought them to light.
And what does that have to do with you?
Maul took a step closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper.
The galaxy is a rotting carcass, ruled by fools and cowards. You see that, just as I do. But knowledge alone will not change it. Power will.
Aegis's eyes narrowed.
Power?
Yes. I can teach you how to seize it, how to wield it. Together, we can shape the galaxy into what it was meant to be. But first, you must be willing to cast aside everything you think you know. Your teachers, your ideals, they are chains. Are you prepared to break them?
Aegis stared at him, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. The logical part of him screamed that this was dangerous, that this stranger, this Maul, was not to be trusted. but deep down, in the darkest corners of his soul, he felt an undeniable pull. Aegis took a deep breath, meeting Maul's piercing gaze.
If what you say is true, if you can really teach me, then yes, I'm prepared.
Maul's smirk widened, though there was no warmth in it.
Good. You've taken your first step. Now, we begin.
With the flourish of his cloak, Maul turned and began walking into the shadows. Aegis hesitated for only a moment before following, his datapad forgotten on the ground behind him. He doesn't know where this path will lead, but something told him there was no turning back. The forest moon of Radon Prime was bathed in a soft, pale light of its twin moons. The dense canopy overhead cast broken shadows across the forest floor, where Darth Maul moved like a phantom. Behind him, his apprentice, Aegis Vulnero, followed with a silent precision.
Feel the force around you. Let it guide you. Let it feed your instincts.
Aegis nodded, his Syrian head inclined in focus. His breathing was steady, his eyes scanning the darkness. Somewhere ahead, their target moved. Wrenn, the Jedi responsible for Maul's most recent humiliation. It wasn't an assassination attempt, it was a lesson in patience, in the art of the hunt. Maul had made that clear.
Do not act unless I command it. This is not your fight. Not yet. Today, you are the predator, learning to stalk its prey. Watch, listen, and learn.
Ahead, the faint sound of footsteps rustled the underbrush. Aegis froze, his senses extending outward into the Force. He could feel Wrenn's presence, calm and resolute, like a steady flame in the void. The Jedi moved deliberately, searching for something, or someone. Aegis leaned closer to Maul.
He knows we're here.
No. He senses a disturbance. Nothing more. Jedi are blind to what they cannot see. That is their weakness.
Aegis nodded, though doubt lingered in his mind. He watched as Wrenn paused, his lightsaber hilt in hand but unlit. The Jedi looked around, his brow furrowed. Aegis felt a pang of admiration for the man. His movements were graceful, precise, every step measured. But the admiration was fleeting, drowned by the simmering rage he felt from Maul.
Why him?
Because he is a symbol of their hypocrisy. A reminder of my failure. He is the Jedi's arrogance made flesh. A knight who believes in their stagnant ways. One day, you will face him, and you will understand.
Wrenn moved again, his path veering toward a small clearing ahead. Maul gestured for Aegis to follow, and the two melted into the underbrush. As they approached the clearing, Maul halted abruptly, raising a hand to stop his apprentice. In the clearing, Wrenn knelt beside a fallen log, placing a hand on the moss-covered surface. His lips moved in silence, a quiet prayer to the Force. The moment was serene, yet the tension in the air was palpable.
Do you see? He believes himself to be a servant of balance, of peace. But beneath that facade lies doubt, fear. The Jedi are not invincible. They can be broken.
Aegis studied Wrenn closely, his mind racing. He could feel the Jedi's calm resolve, but also something deeper. An ache, a wound that had not yet healed. Aegis didn't need to ask to know its source. Navarro had scarred Wrenn as much as it had scarred Maul, though in a different way.
What now?
Now, we wait. This is not our moment. But you have seen him, felt him. The next time you sense him in the Force, it will be like finding an old enemy. That familiarity will be your weapon.
Wrenn stood, his gaze sweeping the forest one last time before he continued on his way. Aegis watched him disappear into the trees, the Jedi's presence fading from his senses like the dying embers of a fire. As the forest returned to its stillness, Maul turned to Aegis.
You are learning, but remember this. The hunt is not about the kill. It is about control. Control of yourself, your emotions, and your prey. Until you master that, you are not ready to stand as my equal.
Aegis lowered his head.
I will not fail you.
You won't, because failure means death.
Without another word, Maul turned and vanished into the darkness. Aegis followed, his mind burning with questions and ambitions, his resolve hardening with each step. One day, he would prove himself worthy, not just to Maul, but to the Force itself. The neon-soaked streets of Ord Mantell Undercity were alive with the constant hum of activity. Vendors shouted over one another, hawking wares of dubious legality. The air was thick with the acrid taint of burning fuel and pungent aroma of exotic spices. Aegis Vulnero moved through the crowd like a wraith, his dark cloth billowing behind him as he navigated the labyrinth of alleys and stalls. He arrived at a small, dimly lit cantina tucked between two towering industrial complexes. The establishment was barely marked, its only sign a flickering neon glyph that seemed to beckon the desperate and the dangerous. Aegis pushed the door open, the muted thrum of conversation and the clink of glasses washing over him. His eyes scanned the room, settling on a corner booth where a Twi'lek woman sat, her leku draped over her shoulders, Myra. She was dressed in a patched leather jacket, her fingers danced over a datapad in front of her. A small drink sat untouched by her side. Aegis approached the booth, his presence drawing a few curious glances from the other patrons. Myra looked up, her sharp green eyes narrowing as he slid into the seat opposite her.
You must be Aegis. You've got the look of someone who doesn't belong in a place like this.
And you must be Myra, the slicer with a reputation.
Myra smirked.
A reputation's a double-edged sword. Brings in the credits, but also brings in trouble. Which one are you?
That depends.
Aegis placed a small credit chip on the table and slid it towards her. Myra picked up the chip, flipping it between her fingers before pocketing it.
All right, you got my attention. What kind of opportunity are we talking about?
I need information. Access to networks and files that are heavily guarded. I was told you were the best.
Myra raised an eyebrow.
Flattery's nice, but it won't get you far. What exactly are you after?
I'm looking for someone. A Jedi. I need to know their movements, their associates, any sort of vulnerability.
Myra blinked, the smirk slipping from her face.
A Jedi? You're serious.
Very.
Myra leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper.
Look, I've done jobs for shady types before, but tracking Jedi? That's suicide.
That's why I came to you. You have the skills and connections to make it happen, and I'm willing to pay whatever it takes.
Myra studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she let out a sigh and tapped her datapad, pulling up a series of encrypted files.
You're lucky I'm curious about why someone like you is hunting a Jedi. But if I do this, we do it my way. You want a ghost trail? Fine. But if I smell even a hint of danger, I'm out.
Agreed.
Myra nodded, sliding the datapad across the table.
I'll need a few days to set up the tracker and backdoors. If your Jedi is out there, I'll find them. You better have more than credits to offer if it gets messy.
Aegis's lips curved into a faint smile.
Don't worry. I have more to offer than just credits.
Myra tilted her head, watching him carefully.
As long as I can pay the rent with it. You've got secrets, don't you? Big ones. Maybe even dangerous ones.
Danger is relative,
Aegis rose from the booth.
but secrets? Those are priceless, and you may learn more of mine in time.
What's your angle in all of this? I don't like to get involved with people without knowing a little bit.
To reshape the galaxy in the image it was always meant to have.
The cantina door hissed shut behind him, leaving Myra alone with her thoughts in the datapad. For a moment, she considered the risk, the danger of working with someone so enigmatic. Then she smirked, shaking her head. Myra returned to her work.
This is either the best decision I've ever made, or the worst.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This May 19th, the dark side rises once more.
Join the cast of Star Wars Nightfall as we celebrate Revenge of the Sith's 20th anniversary with an epic night of Battlefront 2 on Twitch.
Will we execute Order 66 or bring balance to the Force? Find out as we take the battle across the galaxy.
If any PC gamers want to influence the battle, you can join us by connecting to the server Star Wars Nightfall.
Monday, May 19th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Only at twitchtv.nightfallmedia. The Clone Wars may be over, but the fight is just beginning.
The bustling city of Miras Prime was alive with the energy of its citizens. Speeder traffic crisscrossed the skies, neon signs bathed the streets in a kaleidoscope of colors, and crowds thronged the marketplace, bartering and bustling beneath the glow of artificial lights. Amid the chaos, Aegis Vulnero moved unnoticed, his cloak pulled tight, his face obscured by a hood. From his perch atop a towering spire, Darth Maul watched through a pair of electro-binoculars, his yellow eyes fixed on his apprentice. This was a test of precision, cunning, and restraint. Aegis was tasked with eliminating Jedi Knight Wrenn, a vigilant protector of the city, without causing a single disturbance. Aegis slipped through the crowd, his movements fluid and unhurried, blending seamlessly with the throng. He had tracked Wrenn for days, studying his routines. Tonight, he moved alone, his lightsaber concealed beneath his robes, his senses on alert. The Force connected them like an invisible thread, his calm presence standing out amid a chaotic sea of life. He followed him at a distance, his own Force presence carefully muted, a skill Maul had drilled into him relentlessly. Aegis followed the rhythm of the city to cloak his intent. Wrenn stopped at a food vendor, exchanging a few words with the merchant before continuing down a narrow alley. Aegis paused, observing his movements.
Patience. The moment will present itself. Let him feel safe.
Aegis nodded imperceptibly, stepping into the shadows as Wrenn rounded a corner. The alley opened into a quieter district, its streets lined with dimly lit cafes and residential buildings. Here, the crowds thinned and the ambient noise of the city softened. Wrenn slowed, his head tilting slightly. Aegis froze, his heart pounding. He had sensed something, or someone. He pressed himself against a wall, blending into the darkness. The Jedi extended his senses, his hand brushing against the hilt of his lightsaber. Aegis exhaled slowly, calming his nerves. He reached out with the Force, projecting a faint ripple of harmless intent, a misdirection to lull him. Wrenn relaxed, his grip on his weapon easing as he continued walking.
Good. Now strike, like a blade in the night.
Aegis moved, his steps silent as he closed the distance. He drew a thin vibroblade from beneath his cloak, a weapon far less conspicuous than a lightsaber. The blade hummed faintly as he approached, every muscle of his body coiled like a spring. Wrenn turned into an even narrower alley, his path illuminated by a single flickering street lamp. Aegis seized the moment, stepping behind him and in one fluid motion. With the precision of a predator, he plunged the blade upward, piercing his back beneath the ribs. Wrenn gasped, his body stiffening as the blade struck true. Aegis clamped a hand over his mouth, his grip firm but calculated, lowering him gently to the ground. His eyes widened, his hands clawing weakly at him, but his strength ebbed quickly. Why? Aegis hesitated for a fraction of a second, his gaze meeting Wrenn's. In his eyes, he saw confusion, pain, and a faint flicker of pity. It unsettled him, but he pushed the feeling aside.
For a better galaxy.
As Wrenn's life faded, Aegis quickly lowered his body into the shadows, concealing him beneath a stack of discarded crates. He wiped the vibroblade clean and concealed it once more, his movements methodical. From his vantage point, Maul lowered the binoculars, a faint smile playing on his lips.
Well done.
Aegis emerged from the alley minutes later, blending back into the throng of the city. He didn't look back, didn't falter. His heart was steady, his face an unreadable mask. When he finally reached the rendezvous point, Maul was waiting in the shadows, his arms crossed.
You were seen. Not by him. By yourself. That hesitation, it betrays your weakness.
Aegis lowered his head, his jaw tightening.
It won't happen again.
No, it won't. But you've passed this test. Remember what you've learned here. And remember this. Compassion is a luxury you cannot afford. The galaxy has no room for half measures.
Aegis nodded, his resolve hardening once more. As they disappeared into the city's labyrinthian streets, the memory of Wrenn's dying gaze lingered in his mind. He buried it deep, knowing there was no room for doubt in the path he had chosen. The barren wastes of Lotho Minor stretch endlessly in every direction, the air thick with the acrid stench of decay. Amid endless junk heaps and twisted metal towers, Darth Maul stood motionless, a shadow among shadows. His yellow eyes pierced through the gloom, fixed on the figure before him, a young Syrian man with sharp features, a warrior's stance, and a barely concealed hunger for power. Aegis knelt on the ground, his head bowed. The force swirled around him like a tempest, raw and unrefined, but potent. Maul saw in him the potential to become more than a pawn, more than a weapon.
You understand the risk you take. To defy the will of Darth Sidious is to invite destruction. Yet you kneel here before me. Why?
Aegis raised his head, his dark eyes burning with determination.
Because the galaxy needs strength, not the stagnant politics of the Jedi or the manipulative games of the Sith. Real strength, and you can teach me.
Maul's lips twisted into a predatory smile. He circled the kneeling man, his black cloak trailing in the dust.
Strength without control is chaos. Passion without discipline is weakness. What makes you believe you can master both?
I don't just believe.
Aegis rose to meet Maul's gaze.
I know. You see it too, or I wouldn't be here.
For a moment, silence hung between them, the only sound of the distant clang of shifting metal. Maul's mind raced, calculating the implications. To train the Syrian as his apprentice would be a direct violation of the Rule of Two, a betrayal of his master's doctrine. If Sidious discovered Aegis, it would mean death for them both. But Maul also saw opportunity, a chance to sow his own legacy, to create a power base that could one day rival even Sidious.
Then rise.
Aegis obeyed, standing tall and meeting Maul's gaze.
The dark side is not a tool. It is a companion. It is a fire that will consume you if you let it. You must dominate it, bend it to your will, as I have. You must cast off your former self. From this moment, you are no longer Aegis Vulnero.
Maul stepped closer, his face inches from Aegis's, his voice dropping to a whisper that seemed to echo in the Force.
You are Darth Immunis, my apprentice. Together we will forge a new path, one of vengeance, power, and freedom from the chains of Sidious.
Aegis, now Darth Immunis, nodded, his expression unreadable, though the dark fire in his eyes blazed brighter.
What is your will, my master?
Maul placed a clawed hand on Immunis's shoulder, his grip firm, but not unkind.
We will strike from the shadows. We will gather allies, build strength, and bide our time. But first, you will prove your worth. There is no room for weakness in the order we create. Fail me, and you will die.
Immunis lowered his head in acknowledgement, but a faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips.
I will not fail.
Good. The galaxy will not remember us as servants. It will remember us as conquerors.
As the two figures disappeared into the metallic labyrinth, the Force itself seemed to ripple with foreboding. The seeds of rebellion had been sown, and a dark chapter was about to begin. The air in the dimly lit training center was heavy with the acrid stench of sweat and scorched metal. Sparks cascaded from severed droid parts littering the ground, casting brief flickers of light across the stone walls. In the center of the room stood Darth Maul, his dual-bladed lightsaber humming ominously as he circles his apprentice. Before him, on one knee, is Immunis, a Syrian man whose normally composed features are marred with bruises and blood. The long cone of his head bears fresh scorch marks, and his labored breathing echoes in the oppressive silence.
Stand up, Immunis, or do you intend to kneel before your enemies as you do before me?
Immunis grits his teeth, rising to meet his master's gaze, his legs trembling below him.
I will not falter, master.
Maul's lips curled into a cruel grin. He lunged without warning, his crimson blade slicing through the air with deadly precision. Immunis barely ignites his own lightsaber in time to block the first strike, the impact forcing him to take back a step. Maul pressed the attack, his movements a blur of ferocity and precision.
You call that a defense? Weak, predictable. You think the Jedi will give you time to prepare?
Immunis grunted as he parried another strike, his lightsaber trembling under the relentless assault. Desperation flickered in his eyes, but he channeled it into anger, the dark side pulsing within him. With a roar, he countered, aiming for Maul's exposed flank. But Maul anticipated the move, twisting gracefully out of the way and landing a brutal kick to Immunis's chest. The Syrian apprentice clashed to the ground, gasping for air.
Again!
Immunis clawed his way to his feet, his face a mask of defiance and pain. He lunged at Maul with renewed fury. His strikes faster, more unpredictable. Maul's grin widens as he effortlessly blocked each attack, his movements almost casual. Suddenly, Maul feinted, creating an opening, and slams the hilt of his lightsaber into Immunis's temple. The apprentice stumbles but remains standing, his resolve unbroken.
I won't break.
Oh, you will, apprentice. But only after I forged you into a weapon sharper than any blade.
With a flick of his wrist, Maul deactivated one end of his lightsaber and spins it into a tight arc, forcing Immunis to leap back. Maul's pace quickened, his strikes coming in unpredictable patterns. The room seemed to close in around them, the intensity of the duel consuming all else. Finally, with a roar, Immunis tapped deeper into the dark side, channeling his anger and fear into raw power. He deflected Maul's strike and launched a telekinetic blast, sending his master skidding back a few paces. For a brief moment, the room fell silent. Maul straightened, his yellow eyes gleaming with approval.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Case Barradoon, Kanari and I have a question for you. Why have I never seen your lightsaber before?
Because I do not have one, Suzy. I've never been able to find the one that's right for me.
I believe I can solve that issue for you. Allow me to introduce you to Vader's sabers. They offer so many different lightsabers, you'll be sure to find the right one for you.
Each of their different tiers offers different styles and pricing, with some models offering customizability. Vader's Sabers offers lightsabers modeled after some of the most famous blades, like the Shadow, which is inspired by Darth Maul's lightsabers.
Every lightsaber is empowered by one of their technology cores, allowing the wielder to find a fighting style that befits them. The Eco-Baselit core has an easy-to-replace hollow blade for those who are frequently in duels like myself. The SN Pixel or the Xenopixel core offers gesture controls, flash on clash, blaster block effects, and a Bluetooth app to customize your blade further. Finally, the Profi core includes everything the Xenopixel core offers, plus multiple sound fonts, accent swings, and offers further customizability for those of you who know how to code.
I do not know this Vader, but their work is truly exceptional. I demand you tell me where I can get my hands on one of these Vader sabers.
Go to www.vadersabers.com and use promo code Nightfall for 5% off your lightsaber. Lightsabers that are almost real. Really?
At last, you show promise. But power without control is nothing.
Before Immunus can respond, Maul lunged again, faster than before. Their blades clashed in a fury of sparks, and this time, Immunus met each strike with equal ferocity. The duel raged on, the training chamber trembling under the weight of their battle. Finally, Maul disengaged and stepped back, deactivating his saber.
Enough. You survived today, Apprentice. But survival is not victory. Remember that.
Immunus lowered his saber, his chest heaving as sweat drips from his brow. He doesn't speak, but his gaze burns with determination. Maul watched him for a moment, his expression unreadable.
Rest. Tomorrow we begin again. And if you fail, you'll die.
Without another word, Maul turned and strode from the chamber, leaving Immunus alone amid the wreckage. The Syrian stared at the ground for a moment before straightening, his resolve hardening. He knows that to earn his master's approval and survive, he must become as ruthless and unrelenting as the Sith who trains him. The air in the abandoned industrial complex was thick with metallic tang of rust and oil. Dim lights from Coruscant's undercity filtered through the broken skylights, casting jagged patterns on the cold, uneven floor. Aegis Vulnero sat cross-legged in the center of the room, his vibroblade laying on the ground before him, its edge glinting faintly. His eyes were closed, his breathing steady. His mind churned with restless thoughts. For years, he had been Maul's apprentice, learning the ways of the dark side. Under Maul's brutal tutelage, he had honed his skills, becoming a predator in the shadows, a weapon forged in secrecy. But Aegis was no longer content to remain a weapon. He opened his eyes, staring at the blade before him. Its simplicity reminded him of his place in Maul's plans, an instrument to be wielded and discarded when its purpose was fulfilled. A tool, a shadow.
I am more than that.
From the darkness, the sound of footsteps echoed. Aegis tensed for a moment, then relaxed as the familiar silhouette of a black market slicer stepped into the faint light. The Twi'lek, a wiry figure with quick eyes and confident smirk, approached cautiously.
You got a lot of nerve calling me here. You're lucky I owe you.
I have another task for you, Myra. Something that requires your particular set of skills.
Myra crossed her arms, her leku twitching.
You want me to slice into Hutt's vault again? Because I'm still recovering from the last time.
Not a Hutt. I need access to data on a Zabrak named Maul. His movements, his contacts, his weaknesses.
Myra's smirk faltered.
You're serious. You're going after your own master.
Aegis's jaw tightened.
How do you... Never mind. Maul's vision is flawed. His hatred blinds him, and his obsession with vengeance will destroy everything we've built. If I don't act, his failure will be my own.
Myra tilted her head, studying him.
You're playing a dangerous game. The kind that gets people killed. The kind that gets people around you killed.
Aegis stepped closer, his presence towering despite his calm demeanor.
Do you think I don't know that? I've lived under his shadow for years, Myra. I've seen what he's capable of, but I've also seen his limits. If I'm to succeed where he cannot, I need to move against him. Quietly. Methodically.
What do I get out of all of this? If Maul finds out...
He won't. I'll make sure of it, and you'll be compensated generously.
Myra hesitated, her eyes narrowing.
This isn't just about power, is it? You want more than what he is offering.
Aegis's gaze hardened, his voice dropping to a near growl.
I want freedom. Freedom from his chains, from his obsessions, from his compulsions. The galaxy doesn't need another master consumed by hatred. It needs someone who can wield the dark side without being consumed by it.
The Slicer stared at him for a moment, then nodded.
All right. I'll get you the data. But if this goes sideways, don't expect me to stick around.
Understood.
Myra turned to leave, but paused at the edge of light.
One more thing. If you really go through with this, what makes you think you're different from him?
Aegis didn't answer immediately. He stared at the vibroblade on the ground, then back at Myra.
Because I'm not blinded by the past. I see the future. I'm not determined to reveal myself to the Jedi as he is.
With that, Myra disappeared into the shadows, leaving Aegis alone once more. He picked up the blade, turning it over in his hands. The reflection in its surface was sharp and unyielding, just like the path he had chosen. From the darkness, a faint ripple in the Force brushed against him, an echo of Maul's presence. Distant but oppressive. Aegis's grip tightened around the blade. He knew this was only the beginning.
Your time is ending, my master. And mine is about to begin.
The endless chasm beneath Theed's power generator was silent except for the faint hum of residual energy. Darth Maul, once the instrument of Darth Sidious's will, now clung to life by sheer agony. His upper body sprawled across a narrow ledge of scrap metal. His breath came in shallow gasps. Each exhale a snarl of fury. Pain racked his torso, his legs severed cleanly, his blood coagulated unnaturally from the cauterization of Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. The dark side surged within him, whispering promises of vengeance. Maul clenched his teeth, summoning the Force to keep himself conscious. He could feel his master's disappointment like a searing brand, but beneath it was a flicker of realization. Survival was his first step towards reclaiming his purpose. Maul's fingers dug into the durasteel ledge as he hauled himself forward, his arms trembling but unyielding. His horns scraped against the jagged walls of the pit. The shadows seemed to pulse around him like a cheering crowd, feeding him strength, a gift from the dark side itself. Through his pain, he reached out with the Force, searching for anything he could use to escape. His senses brushed against the faint hum of a maintenance droid. It hovered far above, oblivious to the Sith Lord's predicament. With a guttural growl, Maul extended his hand, pulling the droid toward him with a violent tug. The machine clattered against the walls as it descended, its servos whining in protest. The droid, a battered repair unit, hovered uncertainly as Maul seized its chassis. With a surge of fury-fueled strength, he twisted it, forcing its repulsor lift engines to activate. The droid struggled, but Maul's will was unyielding, and soon he had fashioned a crude platform, his body precariously balanced on the malfunctioning machine as it began its jerky ascent. The climb was agonizingly slow. Maul's vision blurred, but his hate burned bright, a beacon in the darkness. Every jolt and sputter of the droid threatened to send him plummeting back into the abyss, but he refused to surrender. He drifted in and out of consciousness more than once. Above, the surface of Naboo's serene landscape loomed closer, mocking Maul. The droid faltered just as Maul reached the service platform. He threw himself forward, collapsing onto the deck. His body was broken, but his spirit remained unbowed. Maul dragged himself towards the edge of the platform where a speeder bike was parked, likely abandoned during the battle. The sight of it reignited his resolve. With every ounce of strength he had left, he crawled onto the vehicle, using the force to manipulate the throttle. As the speeder roared to life, Maul's thoughts sharpened to a single searing vow. Kenobi will pay for this. The speeder shot off into the wilderness, carrying the broken Sith into the shadows. Maul's mind churned with thoughts of revenge and survival. He would not return to his master in disgrace. Instead, he would rise again, stronger than ever, forged in the fires of his own hatred. The dim glow of a hollow projector flickered against the cold, metallic walls of a small safe house on Ord Mantell. Aegis Vulnero stood in the center of the room, his hood pulled low over his face. His hands were clenched into fists, and the hollow fleet replayed the events he had sought to avoid believing.
A Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi defeated the Sith warrior known as Darth Maul in combat on Naboo. Reports indicate the Sith was slain during the duel, marking a decisive victory for the Jedi and the Republic.
Aegis deactivated the feed with a sharp motion, plunging the room into silence. He turned away from the projector, his breathing heavy, his mind racing. Maul was gone. Dead. The very foundation of his purpose, the master who had forged him into a weapon, had been struck down, and by a Jedi no less. For a long moment, Aegis stood motionless, staring at the shadowy reflection of his face in the polished surface of the wall. Then, slowly, he removed his hood, revealing the sharp lines of his face and the grim determination in his eyes. The door to the safe house slid open, and Myra, the Twi'lek slicer who had become a reluctant ally, stepped inside. She carried a datapad in one hand, her expression unreadable.
I came as soon as I heard. I assume you've seen the reports.
I have.
Look, I know this is a lot to process, but maybe it's an opportunity. Without Maul, you're free. You can chart your own path. No more shadows hanging over you.
Aegis's lip curled into a faint snarl.
Free? No, Myra, I am not free. Not while Kenobi lives.
Kenobi?
The Jedi who killed Maul. He took everything from me. My master, my purpose, my legacy.
Myra crossed her arms.
Legacy? Maul was planning to betray you eventually. You know that. You said it yourself. He used people. Maybe this is your chance to step away from all that.
No.
Aegis turned to face Myra, his face burned with intensity.
You don't understand. Maul's death doesn't erase what he taught me. The Sith's strength lie in the apprentice surpassing the master. I cannot surpass Maul until I destroy who defeated him.
Myra sighed, shaking her head.
This is madness, Aegis. Going after a Jedi Knight? He's a hero to the Republic now. You won't just be fighting him. You'll be fighting his allies, the Jedi Council. Maybe even the Republic itself.
Aegis stepped closer, his presence dominating the room.
Then I will fight them all. I have no choice. Kenobi must die, not only to avenge Maul, but to prove that I am the true heir to the Sith. Only then can I claim my destiny.
Myra stared at him, her expression a mix of frustration and reluctant admiration.
Fine. But if you're going to go do this, you'll need information. Kenobi's location, his allies, his vulnerabilities. I'll help you. But this is the last time. After this, I'm done.
Understood. I'll need you to start immediately.
Myra nodded and turned to leave, pausing at the doorway.
For what it's worth, I hope you know what you're doing. Revenge doesn't build empires, Aegis. It burns them down.
As the door slid shut behind her, Aegis turned back to the holoprojector. He activated it again, replaying the reports of Maul's death. Each word stoked the fire in his chest, each image of Kenobi a reminder of his new purpose. He knelt before the projector, closing his eyes and reaching out with the Force. He could feel the faint echoes of Kenobi's presence, distant and elusive, but unmistakable.
I will find you, Kenobi. And when I do, I will finish what Maul began. Only then will the galaxy know the true power of the dark side.
In the dim light of the room, Aegis' shadow loomed large against the wall, the shape of a man on the cusp of forging his own dark legacy.
When I'm in need of clean energy and laser focus, I take a moment to meditate, reaching out to ghost energy.
Have no fear. I'm here to provide you the focus and energy you seek. Take this can of Strabango Margarita Ghost Energy and fulfill your destiny.
My goodness, this divine liquid is clear, and its flavor is superb. Is it truly vegan and gluten-free?
Indeed, young one.
Is it true that it has 0 sugar?
Not a sugar to find.
It also lists a multitude of nutritious vitamins. That can't be possible.
But it is. Ghost Energy is transparent in their labeling, making it clear to the people what they are drinking.
Then I shall meditate more often, for I shall see myself wanting more.
It is much easier than that, child. You can find it in stores near you, and find a link in the show notes of Nightfall episodes for a 20% discount on Ghost Energy products.